This is a show that brings to the forefront newsmakers, entertainers, and those making a difference in our lives and in our world. Each week is a new adventure with topics ranging from the most serious and cutting edge to the most lighthearted and entertaining.
This is Taking Care of Business with Richard Solomon.
1, 2, 1, 2. I headed for the highway. Stopped to get some gas. He asked me for a credit card.
This is Richard Solomon, Taking Care of Business. We have live musicians in the studio, so just keep listening because this is really cool.
Said, son, you look the desperate man. He said, how far you going? I said, far as I can. It's just paper in my wallet. It's just metal in my jeans. Unless you've walked in my shoes, you won't know what I mean. I filled my rearview mirror with bets that I refuse. I put money on forgetting you. I put money on forgetting you. Somewhere in the desert, I found the perfect bar. He poured one without asking, like he carried the same scar. He looked down at my money, and what we agreed upon, he'd take it when he needed to, and he'd tell me when it's gone. It's just paper in my wallet, just metal in my jeans. Unless you've walked in my shoes, you won't know what I mean. Must have lost a fortune on bad advice, it's true. I put money on forgetting you. I put money on forgetting you. Sitting in the corner, a diamond without flaws. I bought her one for smiling, and another just because. She said she had a place nearby, about a mile or two. She was trying to finish college, and I'll bet she makes it too. It's just paper in my wallet. It's just metal in my jeans. Unless you've walked in my shoes, that I can't use. But
I'd put money on forgetting you. I'd put money on forgetting you.
forgetting you. Well, alright now.
All right, Richard Solomon. We're My Father's Place Radio. We have Lambiase and Lanny Sichel. All right, I got it right. These guys are awesome. We have live musicians in the studio. This is such a treat to have live music the way they used to do it a long time ago on the radio. And we're at least trying to capture that essence. Now, I know that your guys are going to be playing at My Father's Place in July of 19, but we're going to save this show for all time. So if you missed the show in July and this is in the future, find out when they're coming back. So, so either way. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks.
So, I just realized that there's a way to commercialize that song. And the divorce lawyers could use that as their hold song. So maybe I'll just call up the Nassau County Bar Association and say, hey, I got something for you. All right? The matrimonial bar, this is your hold music. Right? Because I'd pay money to forget you. That's what it's all about.
The inside baseball story on that song is it was inspired by a somewhat obscure but influential mystery writer named James Crumley, and he wrote a book called The Last Good Kiss.
Okay.
And the character, the hard-drinking, hard-living gumshoe, C.C. Chagru, inspired that song.
Now, that song, you said, one of the great things about being behind the scenes, you actually get some behind-the-scenes stories. So that's one of your opening songs.
Yes, we actually like to start the show off with that. It's kind of it's fun for us to play, and it's kind of upbeat.
All right, but we also have, you have a new CD out there.
Yes,
all right, and it's called Kid Bayonne. It's interesting because there's some songs there that are really very juxtaposed to each other. Sort of like songs like Ducktown are really, really serious, and then She's My Hollywood is sort of like, and it's the next track. It's sort of like, well, that's a fun, cool song. And then the song, about Grace's Luncheonette. How much did that guy tip before he proposed? Like, was he a good tipper? I was always curious. Was he a good tipper or just not,
We just don't know, because that particular day he did not leave a tip. He just...
Right, but I wanted to know, was he a good tipper before, because maybe that influenced the decision.
That's up to the listener to decide.
There you go. All right, so you want to play something from Kid Bayonne?
Why don't we play Kid Bayonne?
There you go. By the way, for those out there, that is track 1. It's the title song of the album.
And
by the way, you go to RayLambiase.com. He's got a really neat, you got a great website.
Oh,
yeah, it's very cool.
And you can listen to all 4 CDs on the website. There's a player for every CD, and you can listen to every song in its entirety. We just want people to hear the stuff and enjoy it.
And we got them on FM, so here you go.
That's right. So this is not a true story, although I do write a lot of story songs, and some of them are true. We'll play some of those too. This one is not true, but it's a parable. It's a love story about a boxer. And he finds outside the ring that love is always worth fighting for.
That's at the bottom of the CD on the liner notes.
That's sort of the theme of the CD.
As opposed to I'll pay money to forget you.
That was the theme of the first CD, but that's another story.
So this is the recovery CD.
So, all right, Kid Bayonne goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, she lied. She didn't know. Kid Bayonne got out and was heading home. She pulled her bags off the grocery line, got to her car and wished she could turn back time. 15 months, 15 rounds, more or less the same. Kid Bayonne stayed on his feet, fighting for his name, fighting for his name. See, it was after work, she was out with friends, when her ex turned up and came at her again. He spun her round, his fists in the air, but one punch and Kid put him down into intensive care. 15 months, 15 rounds, more or less the same. Kid Bayonne stayed on his feet, fighting for his name, fighting for his name. Any given night, Kid climbed into the ring, bracing for the blows that he knew every battle brings. And then love hit him like a train that he tried outrunning, and he staggered to his corner like he never saw it coming. Parked nearby, grabbed the milk and bread, walked up to her door and saw a kid on her steps, arm in arm, her head on his shoulder. They sat like that for hours and watch the night grow colder. 15 months, 15 rounds, more or less the same. Kid Bayonne stayed on his feet, fighting for his name, fighting for his name. Fighting for his name.
All I can say is you got to see these people live. I mean, this is like I'm having like a live concert experience here, and I hope you're enjoying it vicariously out there. But it's just awesome stuff.
Hey.
So we only have a few minutes in this segment, so let's talk a little bit about you. So you did My Father's Place television. Yeah.
Did My Father's Place television. They're still putting it together.
Yeah. And you know, what did you play for that? I forgot.
We played.
Didn't you do Shema Hollywood? Yeah.
Kid Bayonne.
We played Kid Bayonne and Black Lipstick.
Right.
Oh yeah, Black Lipstick. Yeah. That was a great song. Yeah. All right. So what's cool is I was kind of privy to some of the taping, and I thought that was really cool. And I think it was a great honor to have you guys be on the first show, because It's just really, really cool. I mean, to be, what we're trying to do sort of is have this whole ecosystem of artist development where we have people in the studio, like right here, we have real live musicians playing music. We have them put them on the radio, talk to them about their passions, their songs, the inspirations, and then we put them on television. And, a lot of other forums don't really get to do that, even though, there's lots of great concert venues out there, but I guess they pride themselves in great sound and this whole little thing. How do you like the staging and sound over there?
Oh, it's great. It's great. It's a really wonderful place to play. And, I go back with Epi a really long time. Lanny and I had our first band together.
Well, I noticed you're wearing a vintage, is that a My Father's Place shirt? Yeah, I see that.
No, this is actually from Portland, Oregon.
Oh,
There's a friend of mine lives in Portland, and he took me to this place for breakfast one day. It's called My Father's Place. I went, if I showed you the back, it has the address on there, and it's Portland. People keep asking me about it. They go, that's it, right?
That looks
before it reopened.
Yeah.
And I always turn around and I go, no, this is Portland, But I had to buy a bunch of these T-shirts when I was there because, My Father's Place had not reopened at that point yet.
Right, and that was the only merch available.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
So wait, when you say that you go back to My Father's Place, talk about a little bit about your history and your roots there.
Well, Lanny and I started our first band, or in our first band together, 48 years ago. And pretty much 1 year later, there used to be a Monday night hootenanny night at My Father's Place. I don't know how far back you go with that.
I don't go back that far.
There used to be a Monday night. I think the Guitar Center of Roslyn hosted it. But in any case, that was my introduction to My Father's Place. So we used to go down there and do the hootenanny nights. And Epi took a liking to some of the material and was gracious enough to invite me to open up for any number of acts. I opened up for so many people. He sometimes says that no one person played the original My Father's Place more than me.
Oh, there you go. So that's
more nights than me.
So what was the name of your band back then?
Well,
or there were different names.
Well, we called there were different names. At one point, the personnel was changing so much that we called it Ray Lambiase and the Revolving Door. But we had some great nights there, and great memories. And
it was like second home. If we weren't playing there, we were going there for shows. So we were there all the time.
Well, I guess you'll have to do that now.
Yeah.
All right. Believe it or not, that is the first segment of our show here. So keep it locked in. I got Ray. I got Lonnie. We have acoustic guitars. We got CDs. I mean, this is just an unbelievable event. So keep it locked in. This is Richard Solomon. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Rory Cosgrove, and you're listening to Rich Solomon on WCWP 88.1 FM.
All right, welcome back. Richard Solomon, Ray, Lonnie, live music. This is unbelievable. All right, the song we're going to play right now?
Well, you referenced it earlier, Grace's Luncheonette.
Okay, because I want to know about the guy with the tip.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pours the coffee, brings him toast. He reads the paper like a ghost. At Race's Luncheonette Cafe, he has eggs and bacon every day. Now some days she looks too tired to stand. Things are reaching for her hand. Her heart lifts like a butterfly. The times he's brave enough to try. My dreams are yours to keep. they barely speak. And then one day he kissed her on the cheek. He'd written, "Will you marry me?" on the check down where the tip should be. She brought the apron to her eyes. The fry cook at the grill acted surprised. They would marry on her coffee break, and they'd pass out pie instead of cake. And they said, "My dreams are yours to keep.
My dreams are yours.
Your tears are mine to weep.
Your tears are mine.
And when the sun goes down on this old crazy world, your heart is where I sleep." Call this true romance, or just two lonely hearts that met by chance. But Grace would say each day those guest checks spin, and you never know who's walking in. Oh, you don't. My dreams are yours to keep. Your tears are mine to weep.
Your tears are mine.
And when the sun goes down on this old crazy world, your heart is where I sleep. And when the sun goes down on this old crazy world, your heart is where I sleep. Alright.
Wow. Woo! Okay, so that's a love song. Kid Bayonne is a love song.
That's right.
All right. So what inspired this particular song? Because now we're going to get into the dark side.
My wife.
Okay.
I'll tell you why.
Tell me why. Because
my wife feels I write too many sad songs.
really?
So I felt the need to write. I wanted to write a happy song.
Now, what was
And I'm a romantic guy.
but what was there a real story behind this? Was it it a composite?
No,
Well, the eggs and bacon sounded real.
No, I love writing stories in songs.
You are definitely a storyteller, because when I listen to your music and I'm alone in the car and it's no phone, nobody, whatever, and I'm like, this is like great storytelling, and that is a lost art, storytelling.
It's folk music.
But is folk music isn't really played a lot anymore like it used to be. It used to be really out there. And I don't know that, the more commercial traditional platforms play it like they used to. And I think that's a little bit, and even when you have like the satellites and stuff like that, I don't think there's enough queuing of folk music out there, especially because we have a rich history of folk music in this country.
In New York City.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. So where does your folk music inspirations come from?
When I first learned to play the guitar, I learned to play the guitar to the odd combination of Mississippi John Hurt and Bob Dylan.
Okay.
And those were my early guitar teachers. And I don't know, I listened to a lot of blues music when I was young. I have two older brothers, and luckily my oldest brother had great taste in music, so at a very early age, I was listening to Ray Charles records and even Mahalia Jackson records. And I remember he had remember that double Joan Baez Vanguard set?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I was introduced to some pretty good music when I was pretty young.
And you were the first person I knew that listened to Sonny Terry and Brownie McGhee.
Sonny Terry. And I played the harmonica because of Sonny Terry. And so blues music, it was really more country Delta blues music that I was influenced. And then, of course, like so many other people, Bob Dylan taught me that you could write interesting songs.
Yeah, it's funny when I listen to your music, I'm like, there's no way this guy's from New York. Guy, he must be from Colorado or something. Just where does all that come from? Is it really just vicariously through all this music, or is it from other life experiences?
I sometimes think a lot of it has to do with Hank Williams. I know it's going to sound silly, but there was a line in a movie that I like to quote, and who knows if it was written for the movie or if Hank Williams actually said it. But in the movie, someone asked Hank Williams why he writes so many sad songs. And the Hank Williams character replies, because I want people to know whose side I'm on.
Ah.
And so at some point in my songwriting development, I realized that my life wasn't as interesting to other people as characters I could make up and put into a song a structure, a beginning, a middle, and an end that people could relate to.
Well, one song that I really relate to is Ducktown. You want to talk about that? And can we play that?
Sure. Ducktown is one of a number of songs that are based on fact. In the early 19th century, early to mid-19th century, they discovered minerals in Tennessee and Georgia. Now, the problem was that the Indians still occupied the land, so they had to drive them off the land to begin mining the copper. And that actually was the beginning of the Trail of Tears. And what they didn't anticipate was that you can mine the copper from the ground, but you then have to burn it. You have to smelt it from the rock to make copper. And the residue from the burning is acid. And so the acid rain was so intense that every bit of vegetation died, and the soil was completely destroyed, so nothing could grow. Once the land was completely devastated, not only was there no wildlife, there was no birds or even insects. That's how bad the ecological devastation was. So that went on for like 150 years until sometime in the mid-1960s they finally abandoned it. And to this day, while they're trying to recover the land somewhat, to this day they have to monitor the water because the river was so filled with metals and chemicals that the water is still dangerously polluted years after the copper mining was ended. So this is the true story of Ducktown, Tennessee, and hopefully the song will clarify some of that.
Okay, let's hear it.
They came to Tennessee and drove out the Cherokee, and they called on this place Ducktown. By 1883, they'd cut down every tree. For 50 miles around to burn the copper there, but sulfur filled the air. and soon a deadly rain was falling down. The soil washed away, but the railroad brought each day miners to Dubtown. Back in 1939, we walked out on the mine, striking for Dubtown. Neighbors old and young, they watched with dying lungs. The scabs roll into town. Yeah, they came for you and me, like they did the Cherokee. And like these ancient hills, we stood our ground. But both sides would be lost, a desert spread across what was once Dubtown. Of us stayed, once it was all hauled away. The earth cut down to bone. To hold the tunnels up, they'd flood the holes we dug. But the river cried and moaned. Then the owners all were gone. Yeah, they packed up and moved on. They flew across the craters, red and brown. Once the mines were bare, they took their gains elsewhere. They left behind Uptown. They left behind Dubtown.
Wow. Richard Solomon with Ray Lambiase and Lanny Sichel in the station, and we just played Ducktown, which is a track from Kid Bayonne, and it is track number 4, and I'll tell you, it is a powerful, powerful message, a powerful song, and every time I listen to it while I'm driving in the car or listening to it in the office, it just bothers me. It just really eats inside you, because you realize that, you know, even though this happened so long ago, we're still basically doing it to this day. You know?
And there's actually even a more direct connection. The middle verse mentions the strike in 1939, and the lawsuits about the conditions, the working conditions, reached the courts, and the courts sided with the companies and the corporations, and the theory being that commerce and the development of the the country was more important than the environment. And
Just a bunch of flowers.
yeah,
And some water.
And it's funny how all these years later, some of the same arguments are being made again.
All right. Well, all right. This is Richard Solomon. We're in the studio. Why don't you just play a little something as we sign out for this quick segment? Keep it locked in. We'll be right back. Just play something. Just something. All right. We'll be right back. All right, Richard Solomon. We're in the studio with Ray and Lonnie. All right, so thank you for that cool little bumper music there. All right, so I got to ask you guys, so how long have you guys been playing together?
Well, we met while we were at two different high schools. Mutual friend introduced us, and since 1970, 71.
Tell them the name of our first band, Lanny.
First band was called Yak Stew.
There you go.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How was it?
Well,
Gamey.
we put it together to play at a like a high school
it was like
battle of the bands.
No, it was like a junior variety show.
Junior variety show, and there were about 10 people in the band, you know, and it sounded like it.
But it was great fun.
And so, do you like to play sad music too, or how does that work? Or are you the yin and the yang? Like, so you play the happy stuff?
I just love playing Ray's stuff. I mean, it's it's all good. So, I'm just accompanying him. So it's great stuff to play to. It's easy to accompany him. So.
Right, but he was saying that his wife said there were too many sad songs. So, do you bring the happy part, to
I don't know,
to balance it out,
I don't
or
know. Do I bring the happy part?
You bring a happy part.
Yes.
Well, all right. Well, speaking of happy, for those baseball fans out there, you have a song called "The Ballad of Three Finger Brown." What happened to the other two? I don't know.
I can tell you what happened to the other two. When he was a child, it's a great, great story. When he was a child, his older brother and a friend, he lived on a farm in Indiana, and they dared him to put his hand in a thrashing machine. And unfortunately, he was young enough that he did it.
Oy.
So, so what's not in this song, I'll try to, the song tells the whole story of Mordecai Three Finger Brown.
And it becomes a happy story, by the way.
It's a success story. But the part that's not in the song is Mordecai Three Finger Brown pitched for the Chicago Cubs most famously in 1908. So back then, Major League Baseball didn't have any minor league teams. So they would recruit players from semi-pro traveling baseball teams. And Mordecai Three Finger Brown played third base for one of these teams. And one day the pitcher didn't show up, just like in a Star is Born or something. And he says, well, all right, I'll pitch, but I've only got, three and a half fingers, actually. So it turned out that because of the missing digits, when he gripped the ball and threw it, the ball dove.
It was like a breaking pitch?
It broke.
Yeah.
And all he was doing was throwing it, but the natural weirdness of the way he was holding it with the miss. And he is, so he led the Chicago Cubs to their last World Series in 1908 until 2016. So for 108 years, Mordecai Three Finger Brown helped the Cubs win their last World Series. And despite being as unknown as he is, he has the best winning percentage of any pitcher with over 200 wins.
Wow.
And but so he was extremely successful despite his disability, and he turned it into a success story.
Right, and you have to get credit for bringing the Cubs to their last World Series because
that's right. That CD, The Ballad of Three Finger Brown, came out in August of 2016.
Just in time.
And then in October of 2016, the Cubs won the World Series. And so ever since that happened, I have people coming up to me all the time asking me to write songs about their favorite sports teams. But I explain to them that's not the way it works, that even if I did write a song, it wouldn't guarantee a championship.
You're much too modest.
And legal disclaimer, we're not telling anybody who's looking to improve their pitching career to go out and find a thrashing machine.
Yes, do not do that. I agree completely.
All right, so this is the Ballad of Three Finger Brown.
Come gather in the dugout and leave the bats and balls behind. In life and baseball, a hero's hard to find, and that's why we still remember all across this town and tell the story of Three Finger Brown. He was born in Indiana, where he lost part of his hand. But then he found a curveball that could strike out any man. After St. Louis, he was Chicago bound. And the Cubs had a rookie named Three Finger Brown. After St. Louis, he was Chicago bound. The Cubs had a rookie named Three Finger Brown. So in 1908, the Giants, they had a fearsome 9. They fought us to one final game, the season on the line. Yeah, they had Christy Matheson to keep the Cubbies down. But we gave the baseball to Three Finger Brown. But the gangsters, they had told him that his life was at stake, and if they won the ball game, it would be his last mistake. With their threats in his pocket, he walked on to the mound, and no man stood taller than Three Finger Brown. With their threats in his pocket, he walked on to the mound, and no man stood taller than Three Finger Brown. Then his curveball dipped and darted right through the strike zone drop. The Giants never had a chance. The Cubs wound up on top. Yeah, he brought home the pennant, and then he brought home the crown. The pride of Chicago was Three Finger Brown. So if you're in a tough spot, the odds are looking grim, and your team needs a hero if they're gonna win, reach back for something extra and just look into the crowd. Someone's watching, named Three Finger Brown. Yeah, he brought home the pennant, and then he brought home the crown. The pride of Chicago was Three Finger Brown. The pride of Chicago was Three Finger Brown. Three Finger Brown. Three Finger Brown. Three Finger Brown.
Woo! So I was looking up on the Internet Encyclopedia all about this, and they actually have pictures of his hand and stuff like that. And for trivia out there, The Simpsons made reference of to Brown in an episode called The Last Traction Here at Homer at Bat, where Mr. Burns lists 3 ringers he wants for his company softball team: Honus Wagner, Cap Anson, and Mordecai Three Finger Brown. How you like that?
There you go.
So where do you find this? This is like,
it's funny. Because Woody Guthrie used to say this all the time, that he would like read the newspaper and write like 10 songs. And of course, nowadays it's more the internet. And just from reading, if I read about something that strikes my fancy and there's a song in it, then hey.
Yeah, but the songs I would be writing are about potholes, fires, and crime.
Well, but songs like the story of Three Finger Brown, it's just amazing that these stories are out there about real people, and they're kind of inspiring and upbeat, and that's not a bad thing.
You read a lot?
I do read a lot.
Do you hit the library and just kind of browse the shelves?
I
used to?
I used to. Now a lot of it's on the phone and the iPad, but I do still go to the public library and get books. I am an anachronism.
So, as a storyteller, who are your favorite storytellers in written form as opposed to musical form?
Well, I do like the mystery writers. I'm a big Michael Connelly fan, and Peter Robinson, and James Lee Burke. I just finished James Lee Burke's new book. Those are the kind of books that I enjoy. But I was an English major once upon a time. I've read everything John Steinbeck ever wrote. I even took an entire college course on James Joyce. And actually, that could lead us to another song.
Oh, good, because we have time for one more. Here we go. What treat are we in store for?
The title cut of the first CD is called "Time Leaves Things Behind."
Okay.
And what's interesting about that song is that it is the only known song in the history of folk music that is based or inspired by a poem by Thomas Hardy, who's better known for his novels, including such feel-good hits as Jude the Obscure and Test of the D'Urbervilles and Far from the Madding Crowd. But he was a poet, and he liked to think of himself as a poet, and I actually read a book of his poems. And one of them moved me to where I wrote this song. I can almost hear your voice when a whisper rides the wind. Words from long ago, they drift like falling snow, and I almost hear your voice. I can sometimes see your eyes when a stranger looks my way, but it turns out to be your shadow chasing me. But I sometimes see your eyes, just like a thief comes through a window and takes all he can find. Time makes off with your memories, but time leaves things behind. Yeah, time leaves things behind. I can feel you by my side in the stillness of the night. The long arm of the moon reaches across the room, and I feel you by my side. just like a thief comes through a window and takes all he can find. Time makes off with your memories, but time leaves things behind. Yeah, time leaves things behind. Do you wonder where I am? And do you wonder where you'd be if some forgotten day things had gone another way? Do you wonder where you'd be? Just like a thief comes through a window and takes all he can find. Time makes off with your memory, but time leaves things behind. Yeah, time leaves things behind. Time leaves things behind.
Wow. That was the fastest hour of radio I've experienced in a long time. I have to, first of all, thank you for bringing all your equipment. We're not going to let you go because we're just getting warm. But for this hour of FCC compliant radio, we're going to have to call it about a minute. But to have live music, to hear great stories, to listen to beautiful music, that is what radio really has always been about and should still be about. So,
well, thank you for doing this.
Thank you. It is a great honor to have had a private concert with some of the finest musicians there are, with great stories that move you and say something. So in the last 30 seconds, you got to go to RAYLAMBIASE.com. All the great stuff is there. Ray, Lonnie, you guys are awesome. Catch them at my father's place and lots of other cool places too. If you can get to see them anywhere, I beg of you to do so, because it is an opportunity not to be missed. So, but don't leave the studio. For those in Radioland, we'll see you next week. But for me, at least, we'll figure out a way to get some bonus material out to you. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening.